you found this video here today, I think that you found it for a reason. Because what I'm about to share with you here today is not something that everyone is really ready to hear. But I do believe that if you found this today, then it is because it is in good timing for you to learn about all of this. Today we're going to talk about satisfaction, peace, and fulfillment, which is not something that you can ever obtain or get, because it's a natural thing. It is a frequency or state of being when you're living in truth to your being. It is not something that you can get because you already have it. It's just that at this moment right now, you do not feel in this way because you're holding on to things that separates you from it. This is your essence, naturally, when you are in tune with who it is that you really are. And it cannot be obtained, which I said, because you already have it. It's just that currently, you might not be aware of the fact that you have it. And that's all about what I'm going to come to here in a little second. It is not something that you do that leads to this. Doing comes from that place of the ego that is always trying to figure it out. Because this is not about something that you do, it's about something that you permit. How? Once again, we're coming to this in a second. It's not about where you go, once again, ego. It's just about who you are. It's that simple. This is the most simple thing ever. And if this has not been simple for you, then you'll soon understand why. Before we move on to this, I want to touch a little bit on inner child and vulnerability. Because inner child and vulnerability is equal to authenticity and truth. And you have noticed that I noticed, or wrote down here, living in truth to your being equals this. It's not about what you do, it is how you permit yourself to live in truth, in authenticity, or truth and vulnerability, that actually is what it is that you're seeking all this time. Ego and distraction equals matrix and separate self. What do I mean by this? When you look at this picture here, you see this individual here. It's a red little guy, just doing his thing. Yeah? This is you, let's say. Here is the ego, here is the emotional body. I've written down 2 points here. You might believe that this is you at this point. Or maybe you have come to realize that you are everything. If you do believe that you are this character that you're playing, this vessel that you're filling with your awareness, then you're living in the matrix and the separate self. The matrix and the separate self is a combination of beliefs, insecurities, doubts, overthinking, behaviors, reactions, and addictions. All of these things is simply a distraction by the ego. Because it doesn't, or your awareness is everything. And as you can see here, I've written this little arrow down here because your awareness, when you're living in this state, is simply focused on this point of your mind and ego. You are only with your awareness feeding into the thoughts which are of the nature of insecurities, doubts, overthinking, behaviors and reactions of that nature, of perhaps not standing up for yourself, hiding yourself, or whatever it is, different types of addictions and so on, is because your awareness is diving into this place and is constantly on this place. And when you are living with your awareness on this place for an extended period of time, get lost in the matrix. You believe that you are the matrix. You can try and shift your awareness into your hand, which I've done here. This is pointing to your hand. Now your awareness is in the hand. And it doesn't come from this place into the hand, it comes from this place into the hand. Your awareness, when you are living in just the full state and truth to your being, is aware of the entire being, the emotional state of the body, the whole body, the mind, and the ego. It's aware of everything. The reason that you get stuck in the mind ego in these things, which makes it so that you do not feel satisfaction, peace, and fulfillment, because these things is the things that are clouding and making it so that you do not tap into the frequency of your truth, of your authenticity and truth. All of this is happening because this is somewhere for your awareness to land on, as to not permit your awareness to land in the emotional body. Because these things are all fueled by a rejection of authenticity and truth, or your vulnerability, the inner child. The ego is a protection mechanism because the inner child is not allowed to feel vulnerability, the authenticity and truth, because of some belief that is now here in the ego. And so to not feel that vulnerability, to not feel the authenticity and truth, we get lost in a matrix of overthinking, of doubts, behaviors, and so on, right, that I just mentioned. Because as long as we're in this space with our awareness, we do not feel the body and the emotions inside of the body. And over time, you grow numb. You cannot feel the emotions anymore. You do not understand that you're constantly in a state of agitation. Constantly in a state of, I can't sit still. I do not feel these things ever. Because to feel these things, you must feel these things. Vulnerability, authenticity, and truth is not always comfortable. It can be shame, fear, anger, guilt, and so on. But feeling those things, even though uncomfortable, leads to satisfaction, peace, and fulfillment. Because it's truth. These things are a matrix. A matrix that you're lost in. Because at the fundamental of things, or at the root of things, where it all kind of makes it so that you're stuck here, seemingly unable to break out of it, is because you're still in identification with this being here. Because when you are the mind and the ego, your awareness, by the way, you're everything, you're aware of this mind and ego, you start to believe that you are the mind and the ego. And when you are mind and ego, and you only filter reality through that sense of mind and ego, then you're always separating yourself from this. When you are looking at your emotion with your awareness fixated upon an ego, and then through the lens of the ego looking on the emotion, then you're forever filtering vulnerability, authenticity, and truth with a matrix and separate self. And so never actually tuning into it for what it really is. You're always rejecting it. But if there is no identification with this separate self anymore, then it is much easier to move into this space. You'll realize that the hidden pressure that might exist in your life, that lays on your shoulders, that you can't really put words into, is because you're filtering life with your awareness placed on the ego, and then through the ego looking at the emotion, because the ego always look at an emotion as if the emotion shouldn't be there, as if it always has to change it or alter it, but the ego cannot change it and alter it. It always has to run from it, as to not experience it, because the truth will always be there, but the ego can try and look away from the truth in one of these ways. When you realize that you are not this individual, the ego, the mind, then you don't have to go anywhere. It's not about what you go, it's about who you are. It's about this. It's about this also. But to view both of these places from this place, to view the whole being of you, empowered, and oneness. And as you spend time with the emotion, without looking at it through the filter of the ego anymore, but from the seat of self-realization, you'll notice that this thing, this emotion, whatever it was that was here, as you make peace with it and feel it and experience it as it becomes known to you again, as it comes up to the surface when the distracting things are no longer there to suppress it, that one of these things is going to disappear. A part of the separate self is going to disappear. And then you'll realize that, oh, this wasn't me in the first place. And this, of course, leads to an awakening. That doesn't even look like awakening, but it says awakening. That leads to awakening. Because you'll realize that in the absence of this insecurity or in this thought pattern that you held on to, your presence is still there. And you'll notice that with more presence, you'll start to feel more of your being, your authenticity, truth, vulnerability, because it naturally comes to you in the light of your true presence. And so a little bit more of your doubts will fall away as you make peace with a little bit more of that shame, that fear, or that guilt. A little bit more of that program of always having to improve yourself or chase the relationship will fall away, because chasing the relationship, for example, was because you thought that if I had this individual or this person here, that feeds into the belief that I'm good enough. Which means that with my awareness and presence, I can once again tap into this emotion. But now you're still living in a matrix, because it's not this person that made it so that you could feel this emotion again. It is simply that you moved your awareness back into this place and made peace with it as you were fueling into this belief. This is just a little bit extra information, I guess. But if there was no belief in the first place, then you would just naturally feel this part of you. And then you wouldn't need this person, because you already love, accept, and validate this part of you without this person. I hope this video was helpful. I am really tired, and this is the first time that I'm doing something like this. If you guys like this, then let me know, because this was fun, very strange, a little bit scary actually to come in here and make this one, because I've never done something like this before. But yeah, I hope you like it. Peace.